Hi, all participants. We welcome you back to the forum. This is India's first ever largest mega e-commerce summit. Let me hand it over you guys to Sunil to take ahead on for the fourth session on O2O. Sunil, all good to take?
Thank you, Mubashir. So, good afternoon, all. My name is Sunil, and I'm going to be the moderator for this session. And we start our first session post-lunch for Saral, India's ever virtual e-commerce webinar. Topic for this session is O2O, the new normal in post-COVID era. We all know that COVID-19 is fundamentally changing consumer preferences in terms of buying more online, leading to brands revisiting their online or omni-channel strategy. In a recent survey done in the US last month, more than 75% of respondents did not want to visit any shopping mall or complex. And 52% of respondents did not want to visit offline stores for the next 3 to 6 months. And we anticipate similar consumer behavior here in India as well. Thus, the brands have to adjust to this new normal and start getting serious about implementing O2O, which was at best a French experiment until last year to many brands. Thus, we have gotten together industry's pioneer from different facets of the omni-channel ecosystem to help you gain insights into what exactly is omni-channel, how does it benefit your business and the consumers. We have structured this session in the form of introduction of our esteemed panelists, followed by their presentation, and at last the question and answers from our audiences, including the questions that was shared by our audiences beforehand in our email survey. So, handing it over to Swandeep, sir, and request you to please introduce yourself, sir.
Am I audible?
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm a Swarandeep, a co-founder of Logic ERP. So, Sunil, should we start with the slide or?
So we'll have a brief introduction of all the speakers and then we can start off with the slides.
Yeah. And I'm very excited on this webinar. I think everybody is a great in his field, right? So looking forward it.
Yeah. Hey guys.
Hi.
Over to you, Sanjeev, sir.
Yeah. Hi guys, I'm Sanjeev. I take care of sales at Unicommerce. Interesting sessions already. So today I'm going to talk about what Omnichannel is, how it is impacting in this COVID-19 situation, and what are the current trends around industry about Omnichannel. And also I'll give you a couple of figures around taking a wise decision, should we adopt Omnichannel or should we not.
Thank you. Rohit?
Hi everyone, this is Rohit here. I head the business development for hyperlocal and e-commerce businesses at Shadowfax. So I would be looking forward to interacting with everyone today. And the objective for me would be to simplify omni-channel deliveries for everyone to kind of make it clearer how omni-channel deliveries work and how they can work for your particular business or for your particular area of operation. So looking forward to the session.
Thank you, Rohit. Over to you, Mr. Mohit.
Good afternoon, everyone, and very warm welcome to this afternoon session. I hope you had a light lunch and you can keep up with us. I'm really looking forward to all the questions which will come out. I will try to look at this largely from a payments perspective, but also I think we'll put the customer at the forefront, right? So we'll talk a bit about that as well. Thanks.
Thank you, Rohit. Mr. Naveen, if you can just brief yourself.
Yeah, hi, Naveen Joshua, co-founder at Green Honchos. We are an end-to-end e-commerce enabler, largely on the front-end side. We've been spending a lot of time talking about omni-channel, hyperlocal, and such business models, but no better time than now. So appreciate the forum by Unicommerce to bring us all together and hopefully have a solid knowledge sharing session. I know the session after lunch is a slight tough one. We'll try and keep it as engaging as possible. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Naveen. Thank you, panelists, for your brief introduction. And now moving to our presentation piece. And the first presentation is from Mr. Swandeep, who is the Managing Director for Logic ERP. and his topic is he has to do the ERP for Unicommerce. Mubashir, if you can help in moving the slide.
Yeah. Sunil, are you sharing the screen?
Yeah, it has been shared, sir. Mubashir, can you just give the rights? Can you just help in moving the slide forward? Yeah. Is it visible, Swandeep, sir?
Yeah, it's visible.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sunil.
Yeah. Mubashir, to the next slide.
Thank you, Sunil. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Hi, I'm Swarandeep Singh, the co-founder of Logic ERP. Today, I'd like to talk to all of you about the O2O business model. So the first thing to understand about O2O is that in this, the business treats both channels, online and offline, as complementary in terms of increasing sales rather than competitive. So next slide. So some of the phases that the Indian retail has seen are the mom and pop stores, EBOs, LFS, and e-commerce. Now we have entered the post-COVID phase. Next slide. Now the entire game has changed. We will have to unlearn everything we know and learn everything all over. A few major changes that have come along are the presence of omnichannel becoming vital to a retailer's survival. Omnichannel used to be a buzzword, but now omnichannel will become a reality. Every retailer, whether they have a single store or multiple stores, will be opting for digitalization. Another thing that is changing is the customer's journey becoming mobile only, and a steep increase in contactless commerce. Pre-COVID, we used to talk about mobile first strategy. Now it is mobile only. Every retailer, whether it is a grocery store or pharmacy, everybody wants their mobile app so that they can get orders from the app. Contactless commerce is the new normal, and the consumer wants safety, and they want to remain as contactless as possible. And there's nothing more assuring than their own mobile. Next slide, sir. Next slide.
Mubashir, can you move on to the next slide, please?
Omnichannel retailing is a fully integrated approach to commerce, providing shoppers a unified experience across all channels. Now let us see what are the basics of omnichannel. One customer, whether your customer buys from your website or from your store, his points should be accumulated in one account, and he can redeem points at any channel. This also helps to send personalized promotion to your customers. One inventory, whether you have your own e-commerce site or marketplace or EBOs, your inventory source should be one and updated every time on a single inventory source. One PIM is one product information management. This implies that the product description or images should remain same regardless of any channel. This will help build trust with your customers. If a product listed on your website and it's different than the same article on your mobile app, or it doesn't match with the store display, it leads to disconnect, which then leads to a lost sale and customer. Last is a reverse supply chain. Customer should have the freedom to return at any channel. Like he bought something online, he can return at your store and he can get credit note which he can redeem at online or at any company store and vice versa. This enhances customer convenience and experience. Next, now let's talk about the basic steps you can take towards achieving omnichannel. Sunil, next slide. Now, we were talking about the basic steps. The first step, which is required, is a real-time inventory and a single database. They are the key to smooth and efficient internal processes. It directly impacts and enhances the experience of a customer. If a company is working off of multiple databases, for example, every store, e-commerce, marketplace, and warehouses are working on different databases, which are syncing at intervals, none of the platform will have a accurate information at any given time. There will be a chances of wrong inventory, wrong commitments. And in this process, a lot of orders will be delayed and rejected due to non-availability of stock. Now let's talk about marketplaces and e-commerce. So let me ask you a question. Would you rather have 50, 100, 200 physical stores only? Or would you want to be present in all 1600 cities and towns of India? For this to happen, you have to maximize your online presence. Now, after being present on online spaces, you will receive orders from marketplaces, e-commerce, EBOs, and distributors. For all these to go smoothly and efficiently as possible, you need to have your enterprise order management in place, which gives you 360-degree visibility and purely runs on organization business rules. Endless Aisle is a perfect example of offline to online retail. It enhances the shopping experience. It gives the store staff the ability to sell what they don't have in their store, whether it is a size or color. This helps the staff massively upsell and cross-sell in the store. And studies indicate that it can prevent lost revenue due to unavailability of product on shelves and convert 75% of lost sales into sales. And moving to the next point, the store inventory balancer. I think it is one of the most important point. It works on an n number of algorithms and analyzes every single influencing factor of a retail supply chain and determines which stock is not selling in a particular store but is doing well in another store. And it then creates automatic documents of a stock transfer and gives you a second chance to sell at a best price. Store inventory balancer reduces inventory cost up to 40% and it increases sales by up to 20%. Next screen. Now, lastly, I would like to leave you with some scenarios to wonder upon. Just imagine what if. What if you never miss the sale of a particular product or a shade or a size, even though it is not available at the store? And what if your customer life cycle value increased by 30 to 35%? What if you could guarantee faster turnaround times than your competitors? Thank you.
Thank you, Sandeep sir, for a very insightful presentation. And the next presentation is to be presented by Mr. Sanjeev Padi, who is heading the sales in Unicommerce. And the topic for him is the intelligent allocation engine for a full-fledged omni-channel experience. Over to you, Sanjeev sir.
Thank you, Sunil. It was great insights, Sandeep sir, from your side. Let me continue now talking more about omnichannel. So, can we see the slide, please?
Yeah.
So, before we start, let me say something about the basics of omnichannel. What omnichannel means? So, omnichannel is nothing but the end consumer sits at the center of it, and everything else revolves around it. May the customer be doing buying from say maybe desktop or a mobile phone, or maybe from telemarketing or wherever, the experience has to be seamless. So that's what is predominantly omnichannel all about. Let's talk about what is the impact of or a strategy to be adopted in the current scenario for omnichannel in this COVID-19. Can we look at the next slide, please?
Atul?
Thank you. So this effect surely is going to last long and is going to impact brands, sellers, SMBs all across the businesses. So we all have to adopt right strategies so that operations are smooth after this post lockdown. Things like doorstep delivery, which was not that normal for a FMCG brand, is like a basic necessity these days. So these things can only happen from a very strong process, which should be delivered with strict KPIs on that. Yeah. So one of the important facts is the customer preferences are also changing. So we also need to be careful about what the customer need is, and accordingly the brand should listen and adopt the omni-channel strategy, which is like very large FMCG brands are already doing. So let's look at how this COVID-19 is impacting different industries pre-COVID and post-COVID. Yeah? So if we look at the accessories industry or maybe apparel and footwear industry, pre-COVID, they have adopted the most on front foot to adopt omni-channel as a strategy. However, post-COVID, industries like food and industry have become stronger than before because of the push coming from consumers and from the market as well. Because of this social distancing and other stuff, food and grocery is becoming the strongest, and we are surely seeing a surge in looking at the adoption of omni-channel strategy, which is very crucial. However, the omni strategy could be very different from the apparel brand. It could be very different from a grocery brand, which I think Rahul will speak in his session when he'll cover up the hyperlocal topic. So we'll hear him next. But let's go to the next slide. I wanted to also emphasize a bit on the basics before we get into that. So there was a Harvard Business Review which was done very recently, which talks about the customer decision-making process while they choose any product. So 7% of the participants in this review, they said that we will prefer to buy exclusively online. 23% of the people, I think, they said that we will buy only offline. However, the major chunk of the consumers, those who were preferring to buy any product, they went through multiple channels before they could make a conscious buying decision. And these multiple channels should be unified, should be giving one message so that the customer understands that he is in the right track to buy the product. So let's look at a couple of touch points which are important, which the customer goes through while making a buying decision. So first could be a mobile app or a web app or It could be marketplaces. He could be looking at the product on some TV ad, or maybe listening it on a radio, or subscribing for an email sign up or stuff like that. But all these different touch points should give a seamless and common experience to the consumer, so that he is happy to buy the product rather than seeing something else on the website and seeing something else on the store. So these are very vital aspects of omnichannel to make it successful for the customer. Yeah. So now let's look at the key impact which we can give for adopting a right omnichannel solution, which could be the revenue upside for sure. It is very important for a brand, because there is a investment which is going to go in while adopting this technology. So we need to clearly understand the impact. The impact is you save a sale, obviously you make $1, you reduce cost by right inventory, which could be sourced from the nearest store, or maybe sometimes from the nearest warehouse, to reduce the delivery cost, which obviously impacts operational cost, and definitely a dollar saved is a dollar earned. So that's what it is about omnichannel. And the most important aspect is the customer is also very happy because of the seamlessness of the experience which he gets from multiple channels. Right? So all three important pillars: revenue, reduction of cost, and customer satisfaction, all three can be achieved if we do the right omnichannel adoption. I also wanted to cover upon omnichannel doesn't mean only a common view to the end consumer, but also the internal customers, like our operation guys in the brand, those who are using it while processing the order and stuff like it. So examples could be a common catalog, a common inventory about stock, or maybe one customer view and stuff like that, which will actually help the guy sitting at the back end to process the order in the right way. Can you go to the next slide, please? Yeah, I think I've already covered this, the one catalog view and one consumer view, which is very, very important for a retailer to have an understanding. So that impacts. But yeah, this is, I think, one of my favorite slides, which talks about the impact of omnichannel if we adopt it in the right way. So 30% of CSAT, which increases for sure. 20% reduction in time taken to dispatch the order, maybe higher lifetime value of the customer also, because of the experience which he got seamlessly. So that's also very, very important. So all these 5 important aspects compile us to do nothing but adopt omnichannel for sure. One of the important aspects here is reducing the logistic cost, which I think Rohit, my friend from Shadowfax, will cover up, and he will also focus on the hyperlocal delivery side of it, which will give us more clarity on how this omni-channel strategy can be stitched together. Yeah. So over to you, Smith. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Sanjeev sir, for a very detailed presentation, and I hope it would benefit a lot to our audience. And the next presentation will be presented by Mr. Rohit Gupta, who is the Vice President for Business Development for Shadowfax. And the topic he's going to address is being local, being vocal about local. Hyperlocal could be the new reality for e-commerce.
Thanks, Sunil. Hi, everyone. Yeah, so I think let me just start by talking about the topic itself. So this is a message which Modi ji gave to the whole nation. But I think from an omnichannel delivery perspective, I think it means 3 things. From a customer perspective, how do you ensure that you get your supplies and your needs from the stores which are closest to you? Because in the whole COVID scenario, you never know whether you can rely on a single warehouse or a single point of delivery anymore. I think from a merchant point of view, what it means is that how do you kind of de-risk yourself from from a single point of failure, right? And you ensure that you are as close to the customer as possible in terms of serving their needs. And I think from a logistics perspective, it means that how do you ensure that the merchant and the customer get connected to each other in the most efficient way. So moving forward, So just a brief overview of how the industry looked like prior to COVID. So there was a very clear demarcation between the players who were serving needs online and players who were serving needs offline, right? There was some movement which was happening in terms of people crossing these boundaries, but more or less there was a very clear differentiation between people who are online and people who are offline. I think what has immediately happened post-COVID is that these lines have started blurring, right? And you increasingly see online players having some kind of an offline play and also delivering orders from their offline stores. And more importantly, the offline guys trying to get into online so that the business can survive and they are able to accelerate their digital strategies. So I think that is a very clear trend which has emerged in the last few months. Talking specifically about a few trends which we have seen in deliveries, right? Very importantly, the online orders for essentials themselves have spiked more than 3 times, right? And these are actually the orders which have been delivered, right? The actual demand was even more than 3 times. So essentials includes your groceries, your PPEs, your masks, all those kind of things. So there has been a real surge in demand, right? In order to service some of this demand, there have been a few innovations which have already started happening. So I think one important thing which has started happening in the bigger cities is that some of the big retailers are actually tying up directly with the RWAs and the apartment complexes so that the orders are aggregated in one go and one single vehicle is actually able to deliver the demand in a single run, right? Which kind of serves the whole needs of the apartment in one go. Another very important thing which is happening is because of the closure of the stores, the FMCG players, even the traditional FMCG players are figuring out how to accelerate their direct to customer channels. So again, there were some efforts which are under way even before COVID, but I think there has been a real acceleration in direct to consumer channels from traditional FMCG players. Another important trend which has happened is that people are now looking to maintain their inventory in smaller dark stores closer to the customer. And I think it goes back to the point that you don't want a single big point of failure in your network, that there is a single big FC and it falls in a containment zone and your whole supply chain goes for a toss. So this is a very clear trend which has emerged. And I think the average order value has also significantly spiked by more than 30 to 40%, and with almost 90% plus prepaid orders. So I think it is directly related to the fear which people have on contactless deliveries, as well as some amount of hoarding behavior which happened initially. So the trend around prepaid is something which we expect to continue, but the average order value spike is something which we'll need to see. Now, in order to make it even more easier to visualize in terms of how an omnichannel supply chain looks like, I've created 2 examples of what we have been doing with some of our partners. I'll begin with the first one. Yes. So this covers a case where a leading online retailer who has both online website and delivery from their warehouse, as well as offline stores, which used to be only offline and didn't used to take any online orders. So that was a scenario which they used to operate with, right? And immediately with this current scenario, what the new model which has been created is that if a customer who's placing the order is within a particular radius of the store, right, the order gets directly mapped to that store, right? In real time, the order is allocated to Shadowfax. Shadowfax assigns a delivery partner, and the order is delivered on the same day, right? So a customer who is within 10 kilometers of the store is able to get the order on the same day, right? A customer who is not within that 10 kilometers radius continues to get his deliveries in the normal way, where in a warehouse pickup happens, and then from a warehouse the delivery happens to the customer doorstep, right? So the power of this model is that a customer who is close to the a customer who is close to the store gets immediate deliveries, right? And the benefits which have come from this model is that the NPS, which is typically seen for same day deliveries, is almost 10 percentage points higher than next day delivery, right? So there is a clear direct increase in delivery NPS which comes because of this. At the same time, offline stores get a way of generating revenue for themselves, which had completely gone for a toss in the whole lockdown scenario. And we are also able to maintain a less than 1% order cancellation rate by ensuring that our normal hyperlocal fleet is able to take these orders on the go and are able to deliver to the customer. So that is how this whole model works out. So taking another example, so the first example was that there is a single website, but two different order flows depending on the location of the customer, right? This example covers a point that there is a single store with the inventory and they're able to take orders from two different channels, right? So what it means is that a store which doesn't have a high level of technology with them, probably they don't have an ERP system, probably they don't have a sophisticated inventory management system, right? So they can still take orders through WhatsApp or Telegram or any other chat-based interface or even phone call, right? They can directly punch these orders to Shadowfax. Shadowfax assigns riders to them in real time and then does the delivery, right? On the other hand, the stores which are slightly more advanced in technology and have some amount of a POS integration or a SaaS platform integration are able to get orders through API and then pass the orders through API for delivery. So I think the biggest benefit which has come from this model is that it really democratizes the whole hyperlocal delivery for a store, right? No matter what level of technology the store has, they are able to give the same kind of sophisticated hyperlocal deliveries to their customer, right? We have been able to make this model live in almost 150 stores across India with an order time in full rate of more than 95%, right? And we believe that this is the way to go for a lot of our stores which are there in India with differing levels of technology sophistication, right? So I'll leave everyone with a thought that I think each one of us should really think about how do we set up this hyperlocal supply chain, right? And probably this is the right time to take this up. Thank you.
Thank you, Rohit, for taking us through a very insightful and important topic in your session. And the next presentation will be presented by Mr. Rohit Gopal, and he is the Senior Vice President for Strategy Initiatives for PayU. And he'll be taking us through the topic of omni-channel payments, driving a seamless customer experience. Over to you, Mohit.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. So just to start out, I would just like to just give you, somebody had even asked this question, just give us some examples of omni-channel. But I would actually like to start off with the difference between a multi-channel strategy versus an omni-channel strategy. Multi-channel is where you actually, the entire strategy revolves around the product. And what you're trying to say is, it does not matter which channel you choose, whether it is online or physical brick and mortar store, wherever, we will as a brand or a merchant sell you that product, right? So it's really more of it's a sale driven strategy and it's a product driven strategy. And these different channels act as different silos, right? So they don't actually merge well together, especially information flow does not really get consolidated. An omni-channel strategy really is customer centric. It's saying that you as the customer, wherever you want to buy, we will find a way to sell it to you. And we know what you want, right? We know where you are, and we will try to give you the best sort of value possible. If it's the beginning of the month and you've just got your salaries, maybe you would want to directly buy it. If it's the middle of the month or towards the end of the month, perhaps an EMI is the right payment product for you, right? So it requires more information than anything else. Can we move to the next slide, please? Yeah, next slide. So as I said, so omni-channel is a bit more complex than a multi-channel strategy, but there's a lot of confusion between the two. So with omni-channel, you're putting the customer in the center and you're saying that I have information about the customer and what can I actually do with that? So that's where we're going. The next slide, please. Now, we all know a lot about, there are many myths about Indian customers, but customers tend to be similar across the world, right? In India, we say that these are hyper-connected customers, they're channel agnostic, they're discount seeking, and they're always looking for offers. But this is true around the world as well. But one thing which is very, 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 very interesting is that information on customers is often enough not very prevalent here, right? With the exception of certain very large super apps or very large e-com players, most merchants don't actually have enough information about their customers. And this, therefore, is one of those, shall we say, bottlenecks to actually building a true omni-channel strategy. So here, the right thing really to do is to think of, not just to think about products and distribution, but also to think about how you can actually create a data lake about your customer, and then with inputs from other people, because you may not as a merchant have those kind of inputs. This may be inputs from, shall we say, whether it is from a scoring agency, whether it's a payments company, anybody else with different forms of data. Can you then actually figure out what the solution is for the customer at that point in time? If you just move ahead, please. And when we talk about O2O, O2O traditionally started out by meaning online to offline, which was when originally you said, all right, there are these online players have come in, but how do traditional brick and mortar survive? But we can perhaps reach out to customers in an online journey and then convert them to offline. Today it means actually offline to online in many ways, and in fact it's O2O. Any of the O's can mean anything, right? So it's both online to offline and vice versa. Now, there are some examples of companies in India pre-COVID who had started out by trying to do O2O adoption. But what is very interesting is, what has China been doing in this entire period, right? So the interesting thing is, they are moving in, they're 2 steps ahead already. From a payment perspective, you already have seamless payments, whether it's through Alipay or WeChat Pay. So that contactless, seamless payment experience is already there. Virtual reality and augmented reality has started off now in this COVID era. But more than that is, even if you cannot do true virtual reality or augmented reality, what some stores and brands have started doing is they've actually started using social feeds to get information about their products out. And in some cases started live streaming from the store itself and saying, hey, these are all the products which we have. And when customers end up in stores, the salesperson there is also empowered with the data, right? They'll have a tablet and they will have past behavior about that customer, including information on what they like, what they don't like. So what we're saying is, again, we're going back to the customer. That customer feels that seamless experience between online and offline, and there is no friction anywhere, right? I think in India, we are also trying to do all of this. Many of our larger brands are thinking in that direction. But for smaller merchants and players to do that, you would need to try to partner with other players who've got different components of this entire ecosystem, right? That's how you'll actually be able to go out and be able to compete on a level footing. Next slide, please. Now, of course, I think the slide is not showing up too well, but this was essentially saying that many different pieces, like for example, right now, what are we seeing from a payments perspective? We are seeing that certain categories, like whether it is travel, whether it's hospitality, whether it's hotels, they've all been very badly impacted, but many other categories have not really been impacted, right? So the interesting thing is, how can those merchants actually move into a different world? For example, a merchant like Cult Fit, which was largely focused on gyms, has started streaming its classes. And perhaps they will build a revenue model out of that. But they've actually moved from a brick and mortar type of setup into a virtual or an online setup. And next slide, please. Right. This was based on actually on a McKinsey report, very recent one, which said that many customers, this is almost like a demonetization moment. Many customers, first-time customers, are now adopting digital channels of payment, right? And when they have tried it, they've actually been quite satisfied. They were, in many cases, say mental blocks. They thought it will not work out well. But having tried it, they say, hey, this works out quite well. And the other interesting thing which is happening is decision makers feel the same. There was already a push towards O2O when it came to brands, merchants, decision makers, but it was slow. After COVID, this has become much, much faster. Next slide, please. Yeah. So O2O is the way forward. That is fine. That is all understood. But I'd just like to say, what do we see from a payments perspective? There are a few things which we can see. The first is that as physical discovery of goods reduces, virtual discovery of goods or an online discovery of goods becomes more and more important. So we see a lot of offline players who are actually saying, can you build us very small integrations so that our products can actually be shown to somebody, whether it's through pure online like a website, or through a payment link, or even through a feed coming in through your social media, right? That's what we're seeing on one hand. On the other hand, what we can see is that affordability is going to bloom. Already we thought that affordability will really take off, but now in a COVID piece, what's also going to happen is there is a financial impact on many people, and therefore the kind of purchases which could be made, now more and more people will start looking for affordability solutions. India traditionally has limited credit card coverage, and debit card EMIs are actually, it's just in its infancy. But what's likely to happen is we are going to leapfrog into UPI recurring mandates, which basically is almost like where you can do affordability on UPI. Over the next few months, we expect this to start taking off in a big way, along with the super apps working with alternate lenders, which Bajaj Finserv, there are many large players out there. All of them are trying to target this market. So I think affordability is the next big wave which we can see which is happening. And I think when you think of all of these things, I think the payment industry will actually be able to support business. But what we really would like is integrations between ERP players, logistics players, payment companies, and all of this then becomes like an integrated stack which merchants can use in this new era. So that's all from my side, and I'm looking forward to your questions.
Sorry, I didn't realize I was on mute. Thank you, Mr. Mohit, for taking us through a very detailed and informative session. And the next presentation would be presented by Mr. Naveen, and he's one of the co-founders for Green Oncos. And the topic for his presentation is revisiting the interface as the customers go omnichannel. Over to you, Mr. Naveen.
Hi, thanks for passing it on here. As the introduction goes, yeah, I'd like to represent the front end really, which is the actual website or the storefront on which the actual consumer transaction would happen to enable all of these from an omni-channel and a hyperlocal perspective, because there's a front end and a back end to it. The front end is what options are customers choosing, and the back end is how our systems are available to the customer to be able to process their orders. So, just please move ahead. Yeah, previous one. Yeah, so I just start with a bunch of observations in the past couple of months, especially. It's clear that, moving online is not a if any longer, it's a when, and more than a when, it's a now. We're seeing huge interest from newer categories as well that was seemingly primarily offline. Couple of interesting ones like electricals, beverages, hardware that seem to be a bit down the pecking order in terms of online mobilization. But we're seeing serious movement in these areas as sellers or brands. Another interesting concept is the serious shift in the age demography of shoppers. 2 months may be a small sample size, but we've seen a fairly large data set for this. And which that moving from, let's say, the 20 to 35 to now 30 to 40 or 30 to 45 as well. We feel that the actual seriousness in the nature of the shopper, more prepaid rather than COD, more trust coming in, and also along with that entire ecosystem of probably a reduction in returns that kind of makes the exclusive online channel more profitable from a P&L perspective, because it is really not the primary sales that was ever an issue. It was the secondary and the leakage or the drip from gross to net that was always challenging for this line of business, which probably has changed very soon. So what we're also noticing is, pretty much anyone who were, slow movers or had the e-commerce roadmap slightly later, being primarily offline as a business, any and every step they're taking in the e-commerce space now is factoring in the innovative models of omnichannel and hyperlocal, just because all the inventory really needs repurposing at this point, and to be able to be made available online, to give it a chance to sell, because at least serious marketing money can be put into it. Not much new season is coming in, whether it's soft lines or hard lines in terms of products. It is all trying to figure out revenue mobilization from stock that exists in pockets that can be served to consumers at this point. Another important point is what we are calling as the Kirana advantage, that we've all kind of been witness to with the invaluable last mile during all the series of lockdowns. We are seeing, and I'll talk more about the store to home concept, which is really driving the loyalty factor that last mile had with the consumer. It is actually equivalent to all the data insights that digital could do with cookies in many ways. But actually utilizing that last mile, I think the first sentence by Swaranji was that, how this is more a complementary rather than a competing model. And very much we are also seeing it like that, more as an empowerment of the channel of sales growth. Another last couple of observations on this front, which is truly inventory is lying all over the place, because systems and databases were all disparate. And while there was some channelization in slow and steady formats in the last few years, now there's a mad race towards it, because POS systems had their own billing, ERP systems had their own formats, and obviously order management systems that we talk about as we are in an OMS forum by Unicommerce as well. I think as businesses had inventories clearly demarcated, all of them not pulled into a given pipe. And I think that is extremely critical, because it's really money lying out there in pockets that can be exposed seamlessly. And there's where these models are becoming more interesting. And last but not the least, while we're talking about the front ends, we cannot exclude the marketplaces, which gives so much business to everyone as merchants. We do believe that there were a lot of test runs of omnichannel happening last year. Some of them like Tata Click and Paytm, everyone's tried O2O, Flipkart for a while, Myntra for certain brands, but we do see pretty much as brands or businesses get the backend lineup in place at one source, it will become all the more easier for marketplaces to begin exposing themselves to multi-channel and omni-channel from a fulfillment standpoint. And obviously, I think we previous panelist was talking about an increase in NPS, obviously time efficiency, cost efficiency, overall P&L efficiency. So yeah. So next couple of slides is really, okay, so what are the options? I guess we're all talking about good stuff here. I think for small to medium businesses, it's more about speed. I think in the last 5 years, all small merchants as well would have made a couple of attempts, maybe at least, in trying to get up some format of e-commerce well enough. There are a lot of platforms available, even from the earlier panels, whether it is Shopify or whether it is Magento or WooCommerce or what have you. All are good. Everyone kind of enables them. But our point is, how can businesses look at the top 6 to 7 things to really get in place? Because the economics now exists of actually doing serious business and being able to promote your own exclusive website as brands or sellers. Having a mobile first experience, keeping great health in terms of speed and performance, superiority, all kinds of inventory and front end formats to ensure a seamless customer experience and ensure no drips in the e-commerce funnel metrics is what I think can very quickly, I'd speak on behalf of the entire segment, be set up within just a few weeks. And you can get up to start purposing your offline business as well online, either e-commerce only or even in innovative models like store to home. So next, please. So, here's another format, which is, where there is mature e-commerce, and we kind of call it headless commerce in terms of the architecture, which is more the diagram on the right hand side, where large enterprises are repurposing their e-commerce enablement right now. We are working with quite a few of them as they are through this journey in this last quarter, where each of, you've got your web app, progressive, or, mobile first, as you call it, on one side. But the back end is a set of loosely coupled, modules in a service-oriented architecture. And that's why we call it headless, because the front end and the back end are decoupled. You've got a promotions engine, you've got an analytics engine, and then obviously you've got your omnichannel and order management solutions. These are really robust systems that are meant for scale. And I think in the last quarter, we've seen, I think one of the panelists from the earlier segments was also talking about much higher ROIs in the e-commerce space right now, even with lower cost of marketing, which is where there's a surge of demand and the supply is getting channelized to whoever has good scalable front-end systems to be able to have their customers access it. So yeah, I think this is probably the last slide that we have. So here is another use case. We spoke about small to medium businesses, having a quick setup and getting online. We spoke about large enterprises and the kind of architecture they are looking at for scale. I think offline businesses, traditionally offline businesses, really are looking for a mix of omni and hyper, which is where I think loyalty resided at the level where they would want to utilize their store managers in tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 cities really as sales agents, because their conversions are much higher than any digital conversions. So slightly different in concept from omnichannel, because omnichannel actually is a single storefront. We also are talking about a concept where each store, whether it is a franchise or whether it is a company operated store, gets its own storefront and is able to expose its own inventory, run its own marketing, and service its own vicinity of customers, along with omnichannel tied in, where if there isn't that inventory available there, it could hop and come to either the nearest or HO, or as the need may be. It does put local stores at a huge advantage to be able to service customers from the inventory they have by just turning the switch on. We don't really know how logistics movement would be restricted, unrestricted over the course of the year. So we do bet very highly on this as a platform, or this as a mode where personalized conversions can be offered to get retail going, where it is complementary and not necessarily competing in nature. So was that my last slide, I think? Not mistaken. Yeah. So we'd leave it at that. I guess it's just all the jargon put together. Integrated e-commerce is what we're talking about, not only in India, but the world across, where digital touch points of the front end, traditional touch points as well, all get layered into a commerce platform where you've got a product information system, you got your pricing, assortment, and your order management, and all your backend systems are again just rolling them up into it. And we've got great partners that have been through the day as well today in terms of your 3PL, your logistics, etc., that mobilize the supply chain to get stuff to our customers. That completes the 360 of how we look at it from a consumer business front-end standpoint. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Naveen, for a very detailed presentation. And thank you. One second. Again, I was on mute. Sorry for that. Thank you, Mr. Naveen, for the presentation, for the detailed presentation. And thank you all the panelists for giving a very insightful and informative presentation, and hoping that it will help our audience in a big way. Now moving to our question and answer session. And the first question, let me see, I guess the first question is for Rohit. Rohit, am I audible to you?
Yes, Sunil.
So hyperlocal is the new buzzword, but it's still a long way until the kiranas go digital. What kind of collaborations are key for hyperlocal to work?
Sure. I feel that hyperlocal is slowly coming into the mainstream, right? Talking about kiranas in particular, I think the biggest problem with kiranas face with going online is that at their backend, they don't really have a very high sophisticated level of technology, right? It might mean an inventory management system, it might mean an ERP system, right? Some of them may have it, but they may not be following it rigorously, right? So the biggest problem which happens for a kirana is ensuring that whatever inventory they have, they are able to get it online in an accurate way and able to ensure that the fulfillment is good. B, how coming up with ways to reach their customers, right, and create equivalent customer experience to probably what a big basket may be doing, right? So I think there are two, three trends which will be very important here. One would be that how do we democratize the access of technology to them, right? How do we come up with ways which are probably like a ladder for a kirana store? That probably the first step is a very simple interface like a chat. Then once they start seeing the benefits of that, then they move into probably a more advanced ERP system, right? So that is how the laddering might work, right? And that is how they might start seeing the benefits of hyperlocal for their own business. I think from a customer point of view as well, we will increasingly see demand coming from your local store because of the fact that you are able to get instant deliveries and you're able to talk to your kirana in a much more structured way because of the fact that you're able to reach them online, either through a chat or through a online platform, and B, that you are able to get assured deliveries from them as the ecosystem matures, right? So I think the trend will definitely move towards empowering kirana stores to become more sophisticated in terms of arranging for these deliveries, maintaining their inventory. And I think there would be specific solutions which will come up for kiranas, which work for them, right? Which may be a variant of what probably works for some of the bigger brand stores right now. And I think that is what the ecosystem will evolve towards eventually.
Great, Rohit. Thank you for this. And I'll come back again, Rohit. There are a couple of questions for you more.
Sure.
The next question is for Swandeep, sir. Am I audible, Swandeep, sir?
Yeah.
Yeah. So most companies are very reluctant to make changes to their ERP working, but COVID-19 is forcing retailers to revisit their constraints. What changes are you seeing from ERP providers in general and Logic in particular to help in this transition for Omnicommerce?
See, we'll take two examples. One is a small retailers, and we'll talk about the enterprise also who have the 50 stores, 100 stores, 200 stores also. See, when I talk about the retailer who have a 2 store, 3 store or 4 stores, even they go for a online. Why? Because they said we are having limited time to service our customer, right? So they want totally online so that the work can be done from home also, right? They can analyze things from home. And when they come to the store, it is only the productive delivery hours, right? And in the ERP, take any ERP, any good ERP, everybody is saying, okay, we are online and everybody is going on cloud. They are working on a single database. When it's a single database, it's working totally seamless. So you can have a decision and it is more effective and less man hours consuming in that one. So people are going for ERPs, say where the order management system is in place, because everybody is working for, say, like marketplaces, their e-commerce. Because they are not, say, working on only on a single channel. Everybody is going for a multi-channel. Take the example of small retailers. Even they are going for apps. The pharmacies, single pharmacy, they want, okay, we want orders from our customers online. Kriana stores or the grocery stores, they want. See, because if we see from the March last week to till date, everybody is ordering from WhatsApp. So they want wire to WhatsApp. Why not from our app? Why should we re-enter everything, right? So it should we receive it on our app, and that should come to our ERP, and we should make invoices of that one. And it should be automatically converted into that one. So this is everything. Everybody is looking for ease. So ease is only possible because we are providing ERP, we are providing POS, we are providing their warehouse management system, we are providing from production to till retail, right? So it's life is easy if it is one. Say, moreover, we are, say, collaborating with every vendor. So say like Unicommerce is there, some e-commerce players are there. So these kind of, say, like we have integrated with PayU also and with Unicommerce also to give a customer experience as earliest as possible. So people are going for it. Like they are happy and they are changing it.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the answer. This is for you, Sanjeev, sir. Most retailers may have legacy systems who may not be ready with omni-channel capabilities. Can retailers implement omni-channel with such systems?
Interesting question, Sunil. As Sandeep sir also said, so any legacy system which was built maybe 10 years, 15 years from now, and suddenly there's a new channel coming up saying that, hey, I'm getting orders on WhatsApp and I want to push it to the ERP, it becomes really, really challenging. Right? Also, when you look at a ERP system and you want to do some kind of customization or you want to talk to some outside order management system or things like that, it becomes very difficult for them purely because of the customization and efforts, which is a fact. However, ERP system also has a massive data which is sitting, and I don't suggest people to replace their old ERP systems. Rather, a company like Unicommerce can help, get into it, integrate to the ERP system. It can also integrate to a marketplace, to a front end, to a website, and pull the orders from there and also push it to the typical ERP behind, right? So Unicommerce plays this role of integrating seamlessly so that the experience still stays, and the enterprise can also start keep using this age-old ERP rather than thinking about replacing it, because it has been a myth that, hey, I am into some level of adoption to this ERP since like 10 years and 15 years, and now I cannot really go back, and I can also not adopt Omnichannel now because my ERP is a legacy system, which is basically a myth. So organizations like us are always there to integrate and give help whenever required. So I clearly see that it can be done very, very smoothly.
Thank you, Sanjeev, sir, for answering this. Okay, so the next question is for Mr. Naveen. So, Mr. Naveen, technology is a critical aspect for implementing omnichannel, but an equally important aspect is the process and the organization changes that it requires for smooth implementation. What, according to you, are the top 2 or 3 things that an organization needs to keep in mind for doing a successful omni-channel implementation? Or what kind of KPIs or organization structure should one look at?
Right. No, I think that's a great question. I should have actually even had it as part of the original presentation. I think extremely important because we keep talking about repurposing. I think the organization itself has to undergo a huge process of unlearning and relearning when it comes to the business model flip. Even so there is from offline to, let's say, omni-channel e-commerce, or let's say pure play exclusive e-commerce with dedicated inventory in one location, to a omni-channel format. I think the training process is extremely critical and different. I think the resource skill set as well, in terms of having the right architecture and the right team of people with an understanding of digital is critical, because I think the biggest part of e-commerce is data. And I do think that in offline there are tons of data obviously there too, but there could be a lag. I think the lead indicator of data in online sometimes plays a role of being extremely crucial as well as misleading, because we are seeing a lot more data, and to business owners, when they're seeing a percentage of their business moving towards online in the immediate, uh, that data availability on great analytical tools that are there embedded in our systems are making people make hasty decisions of changing their supply chain, changing their, because there is returns which has a lag obviously in the P&L. So I do think patience is extremely critical in terms of the decision making. We are seeing that very closely in the last 30 days, where trend data needs to have the right kind of sample size. So I think analytical capabilities and slicing and dicing of data in the right formats is probably the number one most important thing, apart from obviously opening up the organization and training a lot of especially traditional organizations towards even sessions like this of what is not only the new normal but the new format. So I think, I mean, it's extremely important, because the entire hiring pattern and the team dynamics, more like a flat structure, because it's very two-dimensional in approach. Needs to change, and it's a method, it's a process, it's not, it's a journey, it's not an event in any way.
Great, great. Thank you, Mr. Naveen, for answering this. So next question is for Mr. Mohit. Mohit, am I audible to you?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah. So handling returns in omni-channel words can be really tricky, particularly due to GST regulations. If an item from one state is returned in another state, how can that be best handled?
Yeah, so GST returns are always tricky, whether it's online or offline. And I think over the last few months, we've seen the government has also started cracking down a lot on, especially when it is on sellers on e-commerce platforms. So you have to be super careful about how you're doing it. And in most cases, monthly reporting is what is expected. And therefore, I think this is just a question of ensuring that your data, because see, when you think of it, right, what I said in the beginning, if you're thinking of it as multi-channel, where an information flow does not happen across different centers. So you purchased a good online and then you're returning it offline, or you purchased it in a particular state and then you're returning it in a different state. So that information flow needs to happen, which is very, very seamlessly. And our structures do allow for returns to be processed. So that's not the issue. It's just a question of ensuring that information is coming in which is accurate, you're processing it which is correct, and you're reporting which is correct. And that reports between the seller and the e-commerce player are also in sync. So a seller on an e-commerce platform should ensure that their data also matches, because if that does not match, again, you're likely to end up in trouble. So it's doable. It is just a question of dotting your I's and crossing the T's. So it's not rocket science, but it just needs some discipline. And here, a good ERP partner actually provides a lot of help, because they in general tend to do a lot of this for you, and a good payments company which can actually give you all the information. And of course, the last part of this is the reverse logistics of ensuring that the goods actually get back. GST is one part, because there's a flow of information, there's a flow of money, and there's a flow of goods as well. And all three separately need to happen.
Got it. Thank you, Mr. Mohit, for answering this. So there are a lot of questions from the audience also. So we'll be picking up few questions from the audience as well. So like one of the questions is like, how does one decide between on-premise ERP or cloud ERP for implementing omni-channel?
Sunil, should I take it?
Yeah, sure, sir.
See, on premises, somebody is a, say, for example, it's a big who have a distribution also, and they have a n number of stores also. It means, see, like you need a good infrastructure. So you need to invest a lot of capex. You need to install servers, firewall, double lease line, then the ACs, etc. And then say, suppose your this infrastructure is in your head office, and the head office is going to close by 7 o'clock, and your stores are closing 10:30. Then what happens? Who will take care of that one, right? If something happens wrong, electricity goes or something like that one. So you need to be a person placed there. So if you take on cloud, that will be less cheaper. Only the OpEx is involved, right? Uh, Cloud is always less cheaper. As we have compared at the n number of time, like our customer says, okay, we'll install our servers. So we have given them, so this is your capex, this is your OpEx every month, right? So that is a huge one. That's a big difference. And today, say like the kind of infrastructure you get it on the cloud, and as well as the reliability factor that you can't get it at your own premises.
Got it, sir. Would you like to add anything else, Swandeep, sir?
No, that's it.
Okay, great. So it's all about the fight between the capex and the opex and the.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Swandeep, sir, for answering that. So there is one another question which Mr. Manoj is asking: how to overcome the price war between online sale and offline sale?
Should I answer that? Or
Yeah, sure, Mr.
Someone
Navid.
else? So I think in the online space itself, there was enough of a price war between the marketplaces and the own website, and discussion on cannibalization, etc. So this adds another dimension, because I think a lot of brands that are heavy in distribution in the offline space have this big challenge that, okay, fine, we understand we need to go online, but how do we manage this? And that's why I think their online business was hedged, because 95% of the business was in the distribution side. So I'll probably answer to that itself. See, it's a tough one. I think fresh or new season arrival will have to be similarly priced across online and offline. Otherwise, it's going to be a challenge. And I know a lot of distribution-led brands cannot, jeopardize their distribution network, their dealer distributors. But at the same time, they do know that they would have to take it direct to consumer as well. That pricing parity and that pricing module will have to change. The multipliers will have to change. It's easier said than done. I understand that, but there is no other way. Whereas the discounting factor of online, etc., I think that can still happen, because a lot of the that factor is based on old season merchandise, or OSM as they call it, especially in the fashion space. So for all practical purposes, there are no takers of that stock through the dealer and distributor network. So there is a core range and there is a discounted range. I think the core ranges will have to remain at fair price or at even MRPs. Brands will have to have separate ranges to manage it. And I'm talking by the experience with some nationalized brands that we dealt with. So the range segregation as well as the channel segregation are both extremely critical. Old season and more can definitely continue to go online discounted, because I don't think the dealer distributor network anyway is being served old season merchandise.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Naveen. So we'll be taking up the last question, because we are running short of time. So this one is from Miss Tanuja, and she is asking like how to plan and prioritize logistic in post-COVID state with changing red, orange, and green zones. How to encourage customers to pay online versus COD in post-COVID state.
Sure. Let me take this up. So I think there are two parts of the question here. So first part of the question is that how do you plan for different zones, right? See, it is an evolving scenario, right? Frankly, there is no easy way of doing this. Possible ways can be that there is a very strong ground intelligence which is maintained, because the way zones are being defined, it is completely on the local authorities of the areas, which are kind of releasing the list of containment zones and red, green, orange zones, right? So a very strong ground intelligence definitely plays a big part in the current scenario. Maintaining a good communication with the customers is also very important, right? Because a lot of the times the customers themselves may not even be aware that they are in a containment zone now, whereas when they place the order, they were in probably an orange or a red zone. So maintaining a very good customer communication becomes very critical in these kind of scenarios, right? At the same time, ensuring that there is a real-time updation which is done in terms of the zone mapping, right, in the system, probably making it a part of your overall ERP system, that there is a clear integration with your backend, so that order allocation is maintained in such a way that probably the order allocation itself doesn't start from the warehouse if a particular zone is in containment zone. So doing some kind of a hack to quickly integrate that is very important. Unfortunately, there is no long-term solution which can be built right now. Reason being that this is an evolving situation and the definitions will keep changing. So I think just keeping your ears to the ground and maintaining a good customer communication becomes really, really important. I think on the second part about how to ensure that people pay prepaid, I think it is more about creating that convenience for the customer, because ultimately it goes back to the first principles, that the reason why customers prefer cash in India is it's because traditionally people have trusted cash more, right? People have a evolving trust with the payment platforms, right? There is of course a long way which we have already come, right? So how do you ensure that the customer has all the options in his hand? It may be something as simple as a doorstep UPI payment option, right? Wherein the customer is assured that I have the product in my hand, right? And now I'm able to scan a UPI code which the rider is carrying, and I'm able to make the payments, right? So I think it is about creating those convenient options for the customer and building that trust. And I think it goes back to the whole customer communication and ensuring that the customer is informed at all points of the journey, so that he has a trust with the brand. And I think as the trust evolves and as the trust increases, the prepaid proportion should definitely increase.
Thank you, Rohit. Thank you for answering this. And like there are a lot of questions, but as we are running short of time and we have to switch on to the next session also. So thank you everyone. Thank you all the panelists and the audience who took out the time from their busy schedule and really had a very great session, and much needed information we gained out of this session. And I think it will benefit a lot for the time to come and adopt the knowledge shared by all the panelists. So now we will move on to the next session, and over to you, Mubashir.
Thanks, Sunil. You've been a great host.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Sunil. Thanks, everyone else.
Bye.
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 Thank you, Sunil. So we are right on time, and we'll be breaking out for a quick, small break, and we'll catch up by 4:30. In between, I've got something interesting for you guys to play on. Please have a look.
Sumit Agarwal from Green Oncho's. I'm excited to be a part of Saral. I'll be covering a few critical e-commerce processes and associated leakages how we can work together to improve these process gaps and improve profitability.
Yeah. Hi guys, Shashank this side from Razorpay Thermos, founded Thermos in 2017 and now later on it's acquired by Razorpay. So it's great to be part of the Saral event. We are trying to make e-commerce is more profitable and how we can build together things for the next future. So in our upcoming session, we'll try to understand what's the RTO and what's the impact of the RTO in overall e-commerce business and how we can prevent them to increase our profit.
Hi, I'm Pranshu from Clickpost. Really looking forward to speaking at the Saral event. I'll be talking about the best practices in logistics and post-dispatch customer experience, primarily for e-commerce companies, particularly around how technology can help solve a lot of problems for us and help in improving our operational efficiencies.
So I'm Mohammed Bashir, heading SMB business for Unicommerce. I am really glad to talk about and share my opinions, thoughts about how to build a sustainable, profitable e-commerce business. Further to my talks, I would also like to talk about the two most burning issues. One is payment reconciliation and second is managing the returns. So these are the two major burning issues which I'll be sharing my thoughts upon. Stay tuned.